In 1981, Alan Miller, one of the founding members of Activision, created tennis for the Atari 2600. And here we are in 2009. Let's pop it in the old Atari 2600 and see how it holds up today. Behold the glory of Activision Tennis. A video game never looked so realistic. And I say this in jest, but it's actually kind of true. This was very realistic looking for a sports game for the Atari 2600. It was only a year or two prior to this when a tennis game released for the Atari 2600 might look a lot like Pong. In fact, it might look identical to Pong. And it might just be labeled tennis. But this game really actually set the bar for a little more realistic gameplay. Now let me talk about gameplay and player control. And I'm not going to get into the rules because it's fucking tennis. If you don't know the rules of tennis, look it up. But there is one curious note in addition to the rules, and that it's not possible to hit the ball out of bounds. So in tennis, you control the pink player, or peach-colored player, or whatever color that light color player is, and you move him about the screen with the joystick. You automatically hit the ball if you're within striking range of it. The button is only used to initiate a serve. The computer or player 2 controls the blue player, depending on which game mode you're playing. And there are 4 different game modes you can play. There's a regular 1 and 2 player game. You're looking at the regular 1 player now. There's also a slow motion 1 and 2 player game. And I tested out the slow motion, and it's the same exact game except for it runs about half speed. So I can't imagine why you'd want to slow this down any. But you can. I found the computer opponent in Activision Tennis quite difficult to beat. In fact, I couldn't beat him at all. I was lucky if I scored once or twice on him. It's a very difficult, very aggressive opponent. But I think Activision Tennis's strong suit is the 2-player mode. It's actually quite fun to play a friend. I found the graphics and animations of Activision's Tennis quite effective. Especially for the Atari 2600. They attempted to render this game in 3D, and it actually worked. But my biggest complaint is how they decided to render the court in 3D. If you look closely, the court outline is a trapezoid and not a parallelogram. So whatever opponent is on the upper portion of the screen has a smaller play area than the bottom portion. So this effectively gives you an advantage if you're on the top portion of the screen because you have a smaller area to cover. And I did find that this minor difference did affect gameplay. It was in fact easier to score when you're in the top portion of the screen. As for sound, there's only 2 notes in this game. The sound of the ball bouncing and the sound of a point being scored. But it's effective. Sometimes less is more. And there you have it. Tennis by Activision. Certainly not Activision's best title or most memorable, but a fun game to play in the 2-player mode. The 1-player mode, not all that fun. Unless you enjoy getting your ass kicked by a computer. I'm Dommy from Classic Games Revisited. Until next time.